I learned this a long time ago. I've learned that sometimes I give myself too much time to complete something and I overcomplicate it. So I am working on an approach to keep things simple, I guess. So this is random. It was an object that I've had for a while. I'm pretty sure I found it in my apartment. I found it on the floor in my apartment in Fort Lauderdale, but I don't know if I found it somewhere else before that. And I kept it with me. And it's in little Anne Frank's crystal ball of light, right? Um, uh, in my apartment, I set up a light. I was stream of consciousness. It's like next to the two artists picture. I was stream of consciousness and making jokes when I first started decorating my apartment. And I bought a picture, a print online that I hadn't seen. It was off of McCary, and it was the photograph, the photographer. Like how he could print the photos, and he said that he had rights or some of the copyrights had expired. I don't want to get up because I'm in shorts, but I probably can get up without showing my body. But yeah, like in my apartment, you know, um, the Jews, they say that you're supposed to you're not supposed to name after the living. Um, and I learned this one of the preschool teachers that I had that I worked with. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to name someone like after the living. I don't know how I got on the subject. But like their name, and when you name like somebody, a child or whatnot, after someone that is deceased, it's kind of like an honor thing. So I decided, within my apartment that I would, like honor by setting up have an Anne Frank book and her like a picture that wasn't really in print that I had never seen, and then I made a joke that I wanted a light to put or light next to it, and then I found like a lamp in a thrift store. It's like very similar to whatever I posted it as an inspiration. So I took this off, but I didn't show this yesterday. And it's actually my favorite out of my jewelry design. It's my favorite. I think it's the item that would be most easily like I did it on Etsy kind of. I'd be like, okay, I can mass produce these, simple enough. But I was interested in having something that kind of balance. So like it's like a circle, and I took apart I think earrings, and they're not like real stones. But the pearl I think is real, and then at the top it's like a wire wrap, and like I made jokes because there's some people that like for religious purposes or other purposes they what did I do? They um they like wrap. There's a reason why they use like certain materials, certain stones, and like I made the joke that the wire was like open, as an open like conduit to love or whatnot. But what's very interesting is I remember sitting on a live Zoom, and someone said, I was looking at pearls, and they're like, there were pearls and paintings, and she said that her person, was a GIA person, right? She said that she could grade the pearl, and by like coloration and everything like that. And I don't think that this is that type of like pearl that could be like graded, you know. But I did have like a um, something made by an Israeli jeweler, and I guess I don't know, like, they say that you can like put the pearls on your teeth, right? But I don't know, like I do know a little bit. If you touch like pearls, you can kind of tell like what's real and what's not sometimes. But pearls aren't like really valuable anymore. But sometimes when people are on live formats, they do like a stream of consciousness. So like this is my favorite thing out of a jewelry design because I thought it was the best. It's like most useful, like it's simple, it's a semi-precious item, and I made the joke, I would like use like, I'm a metal worker, but I could very easily try to find like little like sapphire chips or little uh, ruby chips, and like they had holes like pre-drilled, and you know and try to do something similar to the wire, and then I could maybe use like the only thing that I could possibly do that's not fabric or leather is like braiding of like silver wire, gold wire, and all those things are like readily available, in craft stores. But it's not like really my thing, and I don't want to produce things that are like not that good. I believe in doing what you're good at, right? So yeah, so to bring everything back together. That's what I was saying too. Um, uh, you know, Jeez, right? I find it interesting sometimes when people make things and they make jewelry and they make food and, you know, they write. And I'm not really writing, but I find it interesting when people like have like a a project, right, or craft. And for me, I usually don't want to sell anything that I make like with my hands. Like I don't really want to sell like. Hopefully, maybe one day I will paint the way that I think I would like to paint. I can depict oil. I can paint with oil, and I can depict light. And I can paint people like successfully, and that would be awesome. Hopefully, maybe one day, you know. But even if I could, I don't know if I would sell my work, right? And you know, um, even with my little crafts, it's made by my hands, right? And I believe, like if you make things for like loved ones, I believe like giving something that you make with your hands to them, right? But I thought of making things, uh, with love, I guess, or just making things with my hands. But I'm glad, like, it's not really something that I would like to do. Something I do for myself, I guess. But there are like designers and jewelry designers, and like if you've ever looked up the way that people make, like it's really interesting. Like look up like Afghan silver online, and it's interesting because Afghanistan is, I think, an impoverished country, right? So like these countries where like we're looking at my environmental education again, right? I'm gonna finish this out within a couple minutes. But where silver is money, right? The way that they make things is like so intense, right? And you can kind of look at in India the way that they make not even silver, but like just like bangles or I'm sure they have goldsmiths there, like to me, like it's funny because I signed up for physics, like a Coursera uh, class, you know, uh, just to make sure that if I was to take a real physics class, I will have like review and like theory, so I would be able to focus on math and be successful if I wanted to teach it. Um, but like there's a concept where you transfer energy to something, right? um, you know so I mean that's everything really. So it's interesting, I always like look up the I look up the history of like the jewelers and everything, that I have that crosses my path, and even things that are like Avon. Avon's like I try not to buy like too much Avon because it has no worth. It it's well made, but it doesn't have a lot of worth. But usually, to me, like the energy of the item is very interesting because people who bought the Avon bought it off of a friend or a loved one. And to me, like I found, we call it like just an inspiration piece. You don't call it lucky or anything like that, but I don't automatic like if I am in a thrift store and there is nothing else to buy, I will get an Avon piece. Um, and some of that is just about not necessarily the intention in it being made because it can be mass produced, but someone bought that from somebody else and they kept it in their jewelry box until like, they passed away or whatever happened. And then, it was donated. So like there are people that are jewelry designers and they work with metal and they work with stones. And, you know, I guess like the way that I've looked up because it's like very like trendy and it's trendy, like Afghan tribal jewelry. I don't know anything about it. I've never had a piece of Afghan tribal jewelry. I do know that there are uh, kind of like hipster, like vintage good resellers, and usually the jewelry's between $200 and $400. I know like the price points, but there's also a lot of Israeli craftsmen, craft craftsmanship, craftsmanship jewelers, and so that's interesting to me that there's somebody that in theory works with their hands and they create like rings, and it's like it's in heat, it's in all these things, and then they select the stone and then they set it, and then they set like any other stones with it. So yeah, so I guess it went full circle. The little crystal candy dish, I place under Anne Frank to my Anne Frank picture to kind of like reflect, the little lamp that made a joke that I wanted a lamp, and I went to the thrift store and I found one similar to the mass-produced one that I was looking at online, and that lamp was like $10. So I guess I went full circle with, the little pearl necklace that I had made, and it was separated from the other items. And it's with the little Star of David ball, and it's under a table with space dedicated to somebody. And when I move again, all this will go in an office, and my own decorations will be different. But I just felt the need to bring up the pearl necklace that I didn't bring up, and in terms of design, because it was simple and I felt like it was elegant. And it's something that I could have like mass produced on my own if I wanted to. But I am glad to have not sold like little pieces of like my artwork, I guess. But I don't really know what I'm trying to create, except I've always like kind of done it. But not really. I haven't really sewn or done crafts since I was like a child. But this is something that I really like because, in terms of like that physicsy balance, the wire balances the pearl, and then there's like the little beads, and it does stay like this on your neck, and it just kind of like pokes out. So I found that, interesting. And this felt like a successful, project in terms of design. So, I think if I wouldn't really, it's like a no point, because I've decided that I really wouldn't want to get little items and make things, it's not really, for me, unless it's like a quick fix, unless I'm like sewing buttons, like, on a vintage dress or something like that. That's, to me, that's different. But, yeah, like, in a different world, if I had different, like, goals, like, I would get, like, little ruby chips, and I would get, like, probably, like, a silver wire, and, like, probably, like, a leather necklace, and, and it would make sense. These things were, like, accompanied as, like, upcycle goods. A lot of vintage brand resellers have things that are upcycled. But, it's not really, where it went. But this is something I will wear one day, of course, with like, I feel like you always have to balance anything funky. So I'll wear it with like, you can even have little iterations of design for a bracelet, right? I would wear it with just a white shirt and denim. I don't know. I feel like you show your like personality and the risks that you are willing to take with deviating from the norm within like fashion and vintage and upcycle and all of that. That's a slight deviation, but it's allowed under the umbrella of artistic expression. So, of all my designs, I don't really consider this like a prototype, and I definitely will wear the other necklaces one day, maybe. Just because I don't believe in creating something if you don't use it. But this one was my favorite because it had something like semi-precious, which is a pearl. I don't think it's that precious. I don't think you can grade it, you know. And baby blue. And if I could change anything, I would just get like little ruby chips and even diamond chips, crystal chips, quartz chips, something precious, um, semi-precious, because it's not in a correct cut to like put in a ring or anything. And then I would change the metal, and make sure it's like a precious metal. And I would probably leave it on. I would probably leave it on like a chain or a rope, and it's funny. Um, Maybe it's similar to Kabbalah. I haven't really studied Kabbalah that much. But I did have like a little like a necklace that I wore with like little, it's probably silver like plaques that I bought in Old Town near State nearby in 2010. And, you know, I wore it through the beginning of the journalism phase and everything like that. So I always had things that were like, okay, like I'm going to conform just enough, but not completely. Because this is my expression of my personality in the situation. And I think when I was thinking about like marketing my items, it would have been towards like the hipster, like music-y, like type of crowd. But like you can't, people are who they are. So like this is a nuance that is true to me. So I love this. This is going to be a balance to something that I was doing, you know, before I had a body of work and a proof of like a proof of a journalism concept. And then, then I went back and studied, and then, like to me, it's a cycle of consumption and expression, I guess. So, yeah, just wanted to share this. I don't think it's something that could be like graded um, in a painting, but I know from, I guess, sitting in on like live Zooms that there's some art where the jewelry of, you know, the socialites that when they sit to be painted, the detail, the little pearls on their, sometimes I think they said it was sewn in clothes, or on their jewelry, they can be graded. So, yeah, just had that too. Um, after consuming the knowledge, right, and keeping it with me, and I just had that to share. All right, thank you.